Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. We had a great Sunday slate yesterday in the NFL, and there are a couple and plethora of games that we are going to discuss today. We're going to talk some Bills-Bucs, Chiefs-Broncos, Philadelphia Eagles-Lions, Vikings-Bears, and the Seahawks and the Rams, and we're going to end the show off with my thoughts of tonight's matchup between my Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders. But before we do get into all that, I want to advise you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel, drop a like on my podcast, and check out my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast. But without further ado, thank you for joining, and let's go ahead and get into today's show. Last night was a game that I was very much looking forward to. It's a game that we all discussed on Friday's show between the Eagles and the Lions. We know the headlines going on with A.J. Brown and all the Eagles' dysfunction going on within the organization. Well, last night, my main takeaway was more the lines on how bad the Lions were instead of how good the Eagles were, or if they fixed their offensive issues. Because I talked about on Friday how I was really looking forward to how Philly was going to respond amongst the mist of all of the A.J. Brown discourse. Because last week, coming off a bye, and granted, you were in the freezing cold, you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in Lambeau Field, and you didn't put up a great offensive performance. You scored 10 points. But at home, on Sunday Night Football, against a NFC contender who should be in the mix once the playoffs come around, and offensively again yesterday, you look absolutely abysmal. We'll get to Philly, but first let's talk about the Lions a little bit. I was not impressed by the Lions yesterday. Again, and this is hard for me. This is my diagnosis when it comes to the Lions. I've not been high on this team since the very first game this year. Granted, Jayden, why are you making such a big deal about a game in the beginning of the season? Week 1, the Lions did not look good against the Packers. The offense didn't look that good. The offensive line play did not look that good. And my problem is, never really been sold on Jared Goff that much. And you're losing all the coordinators, and you got all the offensive line issues, and that showed on last night's game. The offensive line was getting absolutely beat like a Cherokee drum. Jalen Phillips, he was all in the backfield. And Jared Goff, the stigma with Jared Goff is, man, you know, when he's not playing in a dome and he's playing in the cold, the guy can't play. And last night, it seems like that stigma surrounded Jared Goff is absolutely true. Jared Goff was absolutely awful. He was 14 for 37, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And do not let these stats fool you. Jahmyr Gibbs, off of running back screens, had 107 yards receiving. So if you take that away, Jared Goff was absolutely atrocious throwing the football. And they were 0 for 5 on third down. Sorry, they were 0 for 5 on fourth down. And a lot of people is going to point this to Dan Campbell and the play calling, because we know and we discussed Friday that Dan Campbell did take over the play calling for the remainder of the season. And Jay Glazer and everyone reported that yesterday during the Fox Sunday pre-show. But I don't think the play calling necessarily was the problem yesterday for the Lions. It was really execution. 9 times out of 10 on the fourth down drive, Jahmyr Gibbs got stuffed. And then the pass plays, the other 4 pass plays they called on fourth down, either Jared Goff was rushed and was hurried off his spot, or there was just an inaccurate pass. The execution yesterday for the Lions was absolutely abysmal. I think the Lions, period, from Dan Campbell and his fourth down decision-making, I think he could have got some points because this was a game freezing cold. I mean, the wind was absolutely atrocious. You need points. And I feel like Dan Campbell was sticking to his guns with the whole, I'm going to go for it because I want to go for it. Because this is the type of identity I have set for my team. And I'm going to live and die by that identity. Sometimes you kind of getting in your own way. Because in this game, you lose by 7 points. I think four times they went on fourth down, they could have kicked field goals, maybe even 3. I think twice they went for it in the red zone, if I remember correctly. You could have gave yourself a better shot to win the game. And I know a lot of people are going to point to, the Lions getting screwed on the final pass interference call there against A.J. Brown, against Rocky Sin on A.J. Brown. Yes, the call was absolutely garbage. I did not agree with the call whatsoever. Granted, this is coming from somebody who officiates football, so it's kind of hard for me to be critical of officials, but I really got to say, did not like that call in that scenario. But the Lions deserved to lose this game. They didn't play well. Now, defensively, shout out to the defensive coordinator. I don't know his name from the top of my head, but he did a phenomenal job last night. The front line did not let Saquon run the ball. And it's just offensively, if this is the way the Lions are going to play, and the way the division is setting up for the Lions, and the way the playoff picture is looking, you're going to have to go on the road. And if you play like this on the road, it's not going to be a good day. Because Jared Goff kind of plays like a pumpkin when he's in these type of elements. And you're in a division where, and we're fixing to discuss Philly. I thought I'd make this one point. You're going to have the possibility of going on the road in Philly in the playoffs. And last year, the Rams had to go there and it was snowing. So Jared Goff, in the offense, I know we can point to Dan Campbell stuff. It's just, the lines were just bad yesterday. And their schedule does not get easier. So I was not happy at all. I picked somewhat the Lions to win this game because I was like, okay, the Lions offensively, they've not, in the games they've lost, it's been relatively close. If they just execute. And I think this is the problem with the Lions. They are not executing. And the thing again with Jared Goff, and this is something that I watched during the game. If you get Jared Goff, if you rattle him, and this is another stigma on Jared Goff, which I've actually pointed out many times. If you get Jared Goff off his spot, because if Jared Goff is able to pick you apart, stand that back in the pocket, he'll pick you apart. But if you can rush him and get pressure, Jared Goff's just not good. And it showed yesterday. But moving on to Philly. I got to give credit where credit is due. This season is kind of flip-flopped, and John Middlecoff described it last night in his show. The season's kind of went backwards. When you really think about the first couple of games that Philly played, it kind of felt like the defense was going to be the worst part of the team, and then the offense, which it should be the best part of the team, but the offense was going to be the best part of the team because you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, relatively decent O-line, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts is coming off a Super Bowl MVP. But it feels like this season, it's kind of the opposite. The defense is going to be the main catalyst going into the playoffs. The Eagles are going to make the playoffs. They should. They are going to be in a conversation for getting the number one pick. Sorry, not the number one pick, but the number one seed, excuse me. It's just because of the defense and Vic Fangio and what he's been able to do, the addition of Jalen Phillips. You got to give credit to Howie Roseman. He just continues to make his team better. And that Jalen Phillips addition is huge. You felt it last night. They were able to get to Jared Goff at will. They were making them uncomfortable. Jalen Carter was getting a pass rush. All these pass breakups, batted balls at the line of scrimmage. Like the Eagles, they were pouncing yesterday. Amon-Ra St. Brown, didn't hear his name much. Jahmyr Gibbs, he had a couple of catches here or there. The only person who really made noise for the Lions offensively was J-Mo here and there, but mainly Jahmyr Gibbs in the run game. And you held Jahmyr Gibbs to just 39 yards rushing. So the defense was absolutely phenomenal yesterday. And I got to give credit to where credit is due. But again, the main headline for this team, what is going on with the offense? And I discuss this every time I watch these games with Dad. And me and my dad, we sit and watch these games. And I tell him when I watch Philly, I'm like, Dad, every time I watch A.J. Brown, he's either catching a slant, a fade, or curl route. At one point in the game where it feels like Philly is trying to force feed A.J. Brown, that one throw that Jalen Hurts made, I think it was in the fourth quarter, and he just chucked it up. I just told Dad, I said, yep, that's A.J. Brown's pass. And he threw it 5 yards ahead of A.J. Brown. I mean, it's just, this Philadelphia offense is nowhere near as good as it was last year. They cannot run the football with Saquon. Yesterday, like, you look, Saquon gets the ball. Like, the front, the guard center guard for Philly is just getting pushed in the backfield by a defensive tackle core who, yeah, they got Lee McNeil back, but the defensive tackle room is kind of not the Lions' strong suit. It was always the edge rushers and the linebackers and the defensive backfield. It's like the defensive tackles was like their weak spot on their defense, and yet they were able to just beat the Phillies offensive line at the line of scrimmage yesterday. Now, they were in the backfield by the time Saquon's just sitting here juking, trying to make plays, but he can't do anything. And the disconnect between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts continues. Smitty didn't even get no looks yesterday. Smitty caught one pass, but he was targeted 5 times. A.J. Brown was targeted 11 times. He caught 7 balls for 49 yards. But when I tell you this offense is just so bad, it's bad in situations. They couldn't even run the tush push yesterday. They got stuffed on 4th down on the tush push. That was absolutely shocking to me. Philly, I know they're winning. They are winning. The stigma and the main consensus around everybody in media, former players who are in media now, they always say, a win is a win. You would rather win ugly than lose cute. I get it. But when you really watch the Eagles in comparison to the Rams yesterday, the Rams and the Seahawks didn't look good yesterday, but we're going to discuss them later. But you got to think, those are just 2 juggernaut teams going at it. And it was like good on good. They go together, and you got a phenomenal product for the most part, entertainment-wise. But yesterday, you watched this game, and I want to pluck my eyeballs out watching Philadelphia's offense. Jalen Hurts, he just 14 for 28, 135 yards. Yes, the weather was bad yesterday, but Jalen Hurts has just not played good football this year. Saquon, nowhere near what he was last year. Saquon had 83 yards on 26 carries, 3.2 yards a carry. Offensively, Philly does nothing well. They can't pass. They can't run. They're not utilizing Jalen Hurts' legs, and Chris Collinsworth was pointing that out in the broadcast yesterday. Like early on in the season, you saw Jalen Hurts' legs and, design runs was part of the game plan. And it seems like there's not a lot of RPOs. There's not a lot of quarterback design runs. It's like Kevin Patullo's offense for Philly is like drop back and pass, and that's really never been Jalen Hurts' strong suit. When Philly was dominant last year, and a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, they were able to run the football. They were able to run pass option. They kept you guessing because of Jalen Hurts' legs. Jalen Hurts is not this drop back type quarterback, and he's going to pick you apart. That's not Jalen Hurts' game. So this Eagles offense is bad. I don't think it's going to get better at any point in the future in the season. And the only thing working in the Eagles' advantage right now is that they're 8-2. Their schedule, for the most part, really isn't horrendous. You got Dallas this week. You're going to Dallas. Now Dallas is coming off a bye. Who knows what that game will look like? Got the Bears on Black Friday. That's at home. You got to play the Chargers. They're not looking that great. They had a horrible loss yesterday. And you got to play the Bills. So, they are really primed and in a prime position to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. And that is going to be a huge advantage for Philly because it is hard to win a game in Philadelphia come January. It snowed last year. So that is like the good thing working for Philly right now. But honestly, if you look at this team in totality, when you watched them last night, they look like just a mediocre football team. The defense is good, really great, actually. But that offense is just so pathetic that it kind of outweighs, well, I wouldn't say outweighs, it weighs the both together to ultimately come into just a mediocre team. But they're winning. They're finding ways to win. That is something that you can always compliment Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and his whole stint as head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. But when you really watch this team, if it really wasn't for Howie Roseman making that big move for Jalen Phillips and the contributions that he's been able to make, what would this team possibly look like? That's an interesting question to ask. But Philly keeps winning, and the Lions, they got to get a whole lot better because they're more than likely going to have to play in these conditions, and Jared Goff's got to play better football. 13-minute segment there, super unscripted. Had a lot of comments there, man. That was actually unscripted. I didn't write no, script for this because I actually watched that game pretty close. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the very next game that I watched closely. And it was one of my big games I was getting ready to watch because Denver Kansas City, two great teams. Kansas City's in a playoffs hunt. But here was my main takeaway in this game. And we'll talk about the Chiefs last, and we'll just discuss the Broncos just right fast. And I got this. It was kind of like, what can I say? This was a premier heavyweight matchup. It was pretty much good on good. You know, the Chiefs, even though their record doesn't really reflect it, pretty good team, honestly. It's just they're having a down year, which we'll discuss the Chiefs later. And we know I've talked about the Broncos multiple times this year. Great Super Bowl caliber defense, top 2 defense, maybe the best. They get to the quarterback. They're probably more than likely going to be on the hunt for getting a sack record, even though they're going to get that extra game to do that. But they're just absolutely phenomenal across the board. But you got Sean Payton, great coach, and you got Bo Nix. And Bo Nix has been the question mark so far this season. Even though the Broncos are 9-2, they are pretty much in prime. They're in the driver's seat right now for the number 1 seed. They're arguably in the driver's seat right now to win the division. And yesterday, it was kind of like a mix of pretty good things for the Broncos. Defensively, I thought the Broncos did a phenomenal job on Patrick Mahomes yesterday. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, statistically, when you're able to hold Pat Mahomes to 29 for 45, 1 interception, 1 touchdown pass, and he had a quarterback rating of 56 and a passer rating of 79, you did a phenomenal job. Patrick Mahomes was rushed. He was not comfortable. And Bo was actually okay. He made a couple of nice throws, but overall, the thing with Bo Nix, and this has been an overall topic for the Broncos this year, is the final drive. In the fourth quarter, it's like Bo Nix just flips the script. Why can't Bo Nix do that for multiple quarters? I've discussed this many times. I really don't know why. I don't know what it is. They have talent on the offensive side of the ball. They got a guy in Evan Ingram who is a Pro Bowler, pretty good tight end around the league. And he's not really been utilized that much this year. And when you look, I mean, you had a couple bad drops. Troy Franklin yesterday. You lose your running back. J.K. Dobbins, who was actually phenomenal this year. You lose him for the rest of the year. And a guy like R.J. Harvey, you plug him in, and you were successful in the run yesterday because the Chiefs had played well defensively yesterday. But the final drive for Bo Nix, it was surgical. It was clutch. And I was saying this today when I was discussing football with a guy I was at in the gym earlier today when I was getting my fitness in. I really said, the Broncos are literally the Eagles of the AFC. Phenomenal defense. Even though I think Denver in totality has got a way better, I wouldn't say way better, got a better offense so far than Philly. They shouldn't, given the talent that Philly has. But in the overall grand scheme of things, and I think the Broncos have a better offense. But they feel like the Eagles of the AFC. Phenomenal defense. They play great defense. You can count on them to keep you in games because they're forcing turnovers, and they're forcing the opposition to kick punts. And when you need that go-get-it drive, you can count on Sean Payton, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and Bo Nix. And that's what we saw yesterday. They haven't had their bye yet, and if they can get on their bye, if Sean Payton and Bo Nix can come together, because there's been multiple reports about, Bo Nix is still young. He's trying to adapt to Sean Payton. Sean Payton is not the easiest guy to understand when it comes to just play calls. I know Colin Cowherd is bringing up something about Bo Nix getting calls late from Sean Payton, forcing them for delayed games and rushing at the line of scrimmage coming out of the huddle. It's just the small things. If they can find some continuity and consistency in the offense, the Denver Broncos are going to be tough. Going up to Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado in January, that is not going to be an easy place to win. With that crowd, the atmosphere, and all that into account, that is going to be a hard place to play. And the Broncos, we take a look at their schedule. Commanders, Raiders are their next 2 games. Those should be 2 wins. Do you have the Packers? Got the Chiefs again, and you got Jaguars. So they just off their own division. If they can, they've already lost to the Chargers. So if they can beat the Chargers again, and that is at home this time, beat the Chargers, they're going to beat the Raiders. They're literally, they have the number 1. They should win their division and be in the argument for the number 1 seed. So the Broncos, they should be clear favorites if they can find their stride off the bye offensively, and if they can bring that continuity together with their defense, it feels like easily the Broncos should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl out of the AFC. If you look around the AFC and the other teams, got the Colts. Who knows what Daniel Jones is going to look like? Chargers didn't look good. You got all these other teams. It's really a no-brainer to really think that the Broncos shouldn't be the favorites. But let's move on to the Chiefs. My overall takeaway, and I've believed in this team. I really do think they're going to make the playoffs still. But the Chiefs, and I came away with this, they're okay. They're fine. We got to come to a realization. This isn't a Chiefs team that went to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. I mean, they don't block well. They don't protect Mahomes fairly well. They cannot run the football. And defensively, they're still pretty good. But this year, and this was a very appalling stat, they're 0 for 5 in one-score games. That is not something we've ever been accustomed to with the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Last year, I think they said they were 12-0. Just 2 different years. And it's good to just say, yeah, this is just a down year. I'm not going to go across, and I know everyone's going to say it. I've seen it on ESPN and all these storylines. I don't want to totally say the dynasty's over with. Because if you really look at the AFC, it sucks that the Chiefs are having a down year because there's so much just parity in the NFL and even in the AFC, because I think the AFC is, compared to the NFC, is a way weaker conference. So it's kind of disappointing to see that the Chiefs aren't that good this year. But going forward, you still have Patrick Mahomes. Granted, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, specifically Travis Kelce, I don't know how much he has in the tank. And really, if you watch the Chiefs, they kind of can't get pressure unless you have the blitz. So I think going forward in the draft, they really need to prioritize getting a pass rush, get another pass rusher to go along with Karlaftis. But, Chris Jones, interior pass rush guy, he's at the age in his career. He's not going to give you 17 games of just straight dominance like we're seeing out of Jalen Carter or Jeffrey Simmons, all these great defensive tackles. But I would not fully rule out the Chiefs in the future, and I'm definitely not ruling out the Chiefs this year. As the bracket currently sits, the Chiefs are not in the playoffs. But when you look at the other teams in the AFC, from a grand scheme of things, I wish on this thing I could see the playoff picture, but we're just going to look at it right fast. I can look it up easily right here on my cell phone. If you look at the standings in the AFC, you have Denver, who is got question marks on offense. You have New England, really had a weak schedule. Indianapolis, you have Daniel Jones. Who knows how good they're going to be? Pittsburgh, the AFC North is pretty much whoever comes out of that division is going to make the playoffs. But neither of those teams wow me. Buffalo, and we're going about to discuss them next topic. Josh Allen's got to play hero ball in order for them to win. The Chargers, they're beat up. Can't protect Justin Herbert. And then you got Jacksonville. I don't know what I'm getting out of Jacksonville weekly. And when you look at the AFC and just this year, I think they could get in ahead of Jacksonville. I really do think they have a chance to get in ahead of the Chargers as well. And would it totally surprise me if they missed the playoffs this year? No. Because going forward, the Chiefs, you got to play the Colts this week. And it's at home, but it's not going to be easy out. And you still got to play the Chargers. You got to play the Broncos again. You got to play the Texans. Their schedule's not that bad. You can string together some wins. I really feel like if you beat Dallas, I think they're going to beat Dallas. You beat Dallas on Thanksgiving. If you beat the Colts this week, you're going to beat the Titans. You can't win. You can't lose no more than 2 games for the rest of the year and think you're going to get into playoffs. I don't think it can happen. They have no run game, and you're forcing Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball 45 times. That is something that you don't want Mahomes to do. And ultimately, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't make the playoffs, but I think they have a chance to make the playoffs, and I think they could get in. But let's just be really, really honest. Someone else is going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. I'm not going to go as far as say the dynasty is over. But this year, this team's not going anywhere. They're just not good in comparison to everyone else in the league. I really do think if you line up the Chiefs against the Eagles, the Seahawks, and the Rams, they're getting boat raced. I really do. And they're already losing within their division. They've lost to the Chargers this year, and they just lost to the Broncos. Granted, close. But man, it's just down year for the Chiefs. But hey, it happens in sports. It happens to all dynasties. Patrick Mahomes will be back. I have faith in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But this year, this is not the year. All right. I tease it just a little bit. I've had these discussions when it pertains to the Buffalo Bills. And I said it, and I made a reel last week, and I posted on YouTube and all my socials. I literally stated, like, the Bills aren't going to the Super Bowl. Like, the Bills don't do anything well. Outside of maybe running the football, but they don't have a good receiving core. Their defense is not nowhere near as good as it has been in years past. So in no way, form, or fashion, I don't see this team making it to the Super Bowl. But we got to sit back and just give credit where credit is due. Josh Allen is awesome. I mean, that is the version of Josh Allen that they're going to need if they think they're going to go deep in the playoffs. Because we're talking about a Josh Allen who scored 6 touchdowns yesterday. 3 in the air and 3 with his legs. That is the definition, and I just teased it a while ago when we talked about the Broncos and the Chiefs. Superman. Josh Allen, with the roster at his disposal, has to put on a cape in order for this team to be competitive and win games. When you look at the roster, I don't love this roster. You can pretty much call this team Josh Allen and a bag of chips. That is what I think of the roster that the Bills have. You have a guy in Keon Coleman who got benched. He was a healthy inactive for missing team meetings on Friday. Like, good Lord, and that's the most talented wide receiver they have on their roster. I mean, this guy, Tyrell Shavers, he made a couple of good plays. He sparked out of anywhere. He actually showed me some flashes in comparison to the other wide receivers at their disposal. Gabe Davis had a little reunion yesterday. Curtis Samuel, but my ultimate takeaway was this is the Josh Allen that they're going to need in order to make a deep playoff run, in order to get to the Super Bowl. But it's highly unlikely we get that Josh Allen for 4 games. And you're going to have to go on the road. They played this game at home. They scored 44 points. But you're going to have to go on the road. I don't see a scenario where they're winning the division. You're already 2 games back, or 2.5. Was it a game and a half or 2, something like that. But you are essentially 2 games behind in the division, and the Patriots' schedule just continues to get easier. I don't see a scenario where they're letting up, so you're going to be a wild card team on the road. And I cannot trust this version of Josh Allen in 4 straight road games. It is just, I don't think that is going to happen. And 2 of the Bills' losses out of the 3 have come on the road. I still, after this game, do not love the Buffalo Bills. Yesterday, if it wasn't for the heroics of Josh Allen, and Josh Allen even made some mistakes, they wouldn't have won this ball game. But Josh Allen was 19 for 30, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He had a passer rating of 104. And the 2 interceptions that he threw were pretty bad. But yesterday, rushing the ball, they were 16 for 48, only 3 yards a carry. Couldn't run the ball. Josh Allen was basically their most efficient runner yesterday. So they don't have a receiving core, and the defense I don't love. And that is the Buffalo Bills. That is the only way the Buffalo Bills are going to win, is if Josh Allen does what he did yesterday and literally put on his Superman cape and win ball games. But to move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers point of view. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they'll be fine. Their schedule is getting a whole lot lighter. When you look at their schedule, they got to play the Rams. That's going to be a tough one. But, you still got the Cardinals, the Saints, Falcons, Panthers. After the Rams, they're pretty much just tune-up games. You're playing your division opponents. Michael Penix looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the year, so you get to play Kirk Cousins one more time. You get to play a Cardinals team who's lost 7 of their last 8, and you get Carolina twice. So they're going to be fine. It's just the really appalling stat is for them, they've lost. So they were 5-1. So essentially they've lost 3 out of their last 4. Not so good. But when you look at their opponents, outside of the Saints, who they bum rushed, you play the Lions, the Patriots, and the Bills. Like, those are 3 teams who are going to be in the playoffs. And one was a tough loss coming off a bye at home last week. You went on the road in Buffalo, not an easy place to win. And then you were on the road in Detroit on Monday Night Football. I'll give them a pass. They're beat up. Baker's still actually playing pretty well. Yesterday, he had a pretty good game. He was 16 for 28, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Wasn't the best, but Baker made plays when he needed to make plays. They were able to run the football very well. This Sean Tucker kid and Rashad White, this Sean Tucker guy, I was sitting there watching the highlights of this game, and I'm like, this dude where is this guy from? Where did they continue to get these running backs from? You have Bucky Irvin. Rashad White's very good. He's gotten rid of his fumble problems that he was having a couple of years ago. And you got to shoot this kid, Sean Tucker. Like, when he gets open field, good luck getting him. He's built like a linebacker, and he's just out there just running a 4.2 in a 40. Like, I was like, this kid is just phenomenal. But they'll get healthier down the stretch. Baker's been playing fine. The MVP Baker chances they've been died down, deservingly so. The Bucs have lost 3 out of their last 4, but ultimately I don't see them making noise if they make the playoffs. And you gotta think, the Panthers currently are a half game out away from, or is the game and a half? What are the Panthers? 5-5 or 6-5? I think Carolina is supposed to be 6-5, if I'm not mistaken correctly. Either way, Carolina's 6-5. So you're only a half game ahead of Carolina, and I don't know what Carolina's schedule looks like, but you got to put some pep in your step just a little bit, because you're getting some competition in your own division, and it really looks like the way the NFC is looking, the only way anyone's making the playoffs is if you come out of that division. So even if they do make it, I just don't think this team is good enough. Mike Evans, how healthy is he going to be? Chris Godwin, he was supposed to be healthy this year. He's not played but 1 or 2 games, and he's had no contribution to the team whatsoever. They've got great running backs, got a good run game. Defensively, they can be, what's the word I'm looking for? They can be streaky. They can be good. But ultimately, as a team, all the Super Bowl talk is gone away, because outside of maybe their defense, I think their defense is good. They just had a bad day against Josh Allen. It was just a Josh Allen masterclass yesterday. But offensively, it's like outside of Mbuka, and you're in a situation yesterday where you're having to throw the ball. You can't just sit there and run it just because you find yourself behind. They just don't have guys that scare you at the wide receiver position outside of Mbuka. Even though Tej Johnson is good, and Sterling Shepard is pretty good as well. He can make plays. But when you really watch this team, it's just they have no wow players on offense. And their offensive line is not the greatest. And that was my key takeaway from that game. Pretty good game. Exciting game to watch. And it was good highlights all around. Josh Allen just continued to do Josh Allen things. And that's the only way that the Bills are going to be able to get to the Super Bowl. All right, a game. This game I was actually very excited to watch. I was highly disappointed that this game was not America's Game of the Week. Granted, we didn't have an America's Game of the Week, and I know probably they didn't think the Seahawks were going to be this good, but this was like the marquee matchup for the weekend for me. If you don't know, I've loved watching the Seahawks this year. Haven't watched a lot of the Rams, but we knew the Rams were good. They were flying up under the radar all season. But the big picture from yesterday's game, and this is not about to be a dump on Sam Darnold segment. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to go the opposite direction. Today showed me just a minor concern when it comes to Seattle. In the big game, will Sam Darnold not turn into a pumpkin? We saw yesterday, Sam Darnold threw 4 picks. And these were not picks that were, tipped up. It hit the head. It hit the helmet of the defender, popped up in the air, and it's caught for a pick. Or it's bad at the line of scrimmage and, tipped, and like the same thing what Jordan Davis did in Philly last night. No. Sam Darnold was hitting them in the numbers, and they were running it back for pick sixes yesterday. Those were the type of interceptions that Sam Darnold was having. Now, if we look at it in totality, the 3 worst games that Sam Darnold has played last year and this year, 2 of them have come from Sean McVay and the Rams. So you could say Chris Collinsworth and, not Chris Collinsworth, Colin Cowherd and John Middlecoff, and all these guys were pointing out like, hey, Sean McVay may have Sam Darnold's number. But if you really watch the game, and outside of the interceptions, I thought Sam Darnold played decent. I thought he played okay. I mean, he was 24 for 44, 279 yards, made a couple big throws, made a big throw there to Mbuka in the second quarter. He had some flashes, but the pressure got to him. That defensive line for the Los Angeles Rams, that front 7 they got is up there with the best of the league, literally with Philadelphia and Seattle. And this is another reason why this game was just phenomenal. It was good on good. Great defense versus great defense. Great offenses versus great offense. Like, it was a good game. And you really cannot take much from this game and really knock on Sam Darnold because you're playing the Rams. They're up there. I think the Rams are better than the Eagles, me personally. Even though the Eagles beat them, but the Eagles had to come up with a couple of blocked field goals to beat the Rams. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC from top to bottom. I think they have the best quarterback in the NFC. I think they got the best wide receiver core in the NFC. And they can run the ball. So I'm not going to really kill Sam Darnold like a lot of people are today. I think Sam Darnold was able to make some plays. I mean, you still got Jackson Smith and Jigba. He still was able to get 105 yards receiving. And you only scored 19 points. And another thing is, and I cannot believe I forgot this. It might be on my next page. Actually, it is, and I didn't write it down. But you played this bad, and in the final drive, you gave your team a game-winning field goal opportunity to win the game. And if the Seahawks won this game, we would not be having conversations about how bad Sam Darnold was. Maybe some of us like me, who is a huge, sports analyst geek, and we get into that sort of stuff. But when you look at it from an average fan's point of view, and if you look at it from the Seahawks point of view, it's like, bro, Sam Darnold threw 4 picks, and we won the game. We'll take that all day. Because we know on a good day, that Seahawks offense, they're scoring 30. That Seahawks defense that they did it yesterday, they will strap you up. They literally held, I don't know the box score. Let's go back to the game cast. I don't know. Let me see. I think the Rams scored 1 time in the second half. If I remember correctly, it's not showing the box score. I don't know why. Did they score in the second quarter? Okay, yeah. They scored 1 time. 1 time in the second half. They scored 1 touchdown. I thought so. So, yeah. If you really are the Seahawks today, like, dude, this was a good litmus test for us. For Sam Darnold, we know. Look, I still like I like Sam Darnold. I can't wait to see him against the Rams again and the Niners because Sam Darnold is going to get more tests. He's still got a couple big games left on the schedule. So it's about to be a good litmus test going forward if Sam Darnold is going to be able to compete in the playoffs. We know he went pumpkin last year in the playoffs towards the end of the season. I don't want that. I love the Seattle team. Y'all, they're my favorite team in the NFC. I don't, it's sad to say. I love to say that about my own team. But when I watch this team, they're just a fun watch. Great team to watch across the board. And, yeah. I'm not going to kill Sam Darnold today. You played a good team. You gave yourself and your team a chance to win. What more can you ask? From the Rams' point of view, the Rams of Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, they've been playing sneaky good football. That defense can absolutely get after you. I mean, when you from Bryce Young to Jared Verse, Fisk, and that front Turner, they just have a phenomenal front seven. Oh, excuse me, my dog's got to go out. Excuse me, I did not even realize my dog was in my room the whole time as she was. But yeah, they're just phenomenal across the board. Their question mark was their back end, but when you have a game like yesterday, that defensive line is so good and that front seven is just phenomenal that they can wreak havoc on your quarterback and force you to turn the ball over, and that just helps out your secondary. And we saw that yesterday with the Los Angeles Rams against the Seahawks. They rattled Sam Darnold, got to Sam Darnold, disguised coverages, played mind games with Darnold, forced him to throw 4 picks. That is something that the Rams can do in the playoffs. Stafford's playing well. Didn't light it up this game. When you look at his stats, I mean, you got to think the Rams hardly had the ball for like an hour and a half. Stafford was 15 for 28. I mean, he only completed 54% of his passes harshly and threw 2 touchdowns, 45 quarterback rating and 89 pass rating. But the big alarming stat, and it's something that we harp about with Jalen Hurts and everybody else, 0 turnovers. You're not turning the ball over. So when you're not turning the ball over, you're not giving yourself a chance to lose a crucial close ball game like yesterday. Kyron Williams, you were able to run the ball real well. I love the guy. Outside of his little fumble problems here and there, he averaged 7.6 yards a carry, ran for almost 100 yards, had a touchdown. And we know how good Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams can be. Adams was dealing with a little injury, so he weren't really pretty productive. But they did what they needed to win. And my biggest takeaway from the NFC, if you really look at the Rams, Seattle, and Eagles, I still love the Seahawks, but the maturity and the experience of the Rams may just put them over the edge when it comes to playoff time. Seahawks are young. They have a young roster. Young receiving core. They're young across the board. So they're going to be here. They are going to be here for years to come. Not the case for the Rams. Just getting a little bit older. You know, Matt Stafford, he's not a spring chicken. I really don't know if Matt Stafford would be probably good to play 2 to 3 more prime years of Matt Stafford. Because we're getting prime Matt Stafford. Like, Matt Stafford's been just lighting it up. In many cases right now, he may be people's MVP outside of Jonathan Taylor. He's in that discussion. But when you look at just these 2 teams today, I think they are just superior to me than Philadelphia. I just love these 2 teams. And they're both in the same conference. Like, I just love watching these 2 teams play. I really do. They are good football teams. So when I look at them, I have them over the hump in Philly. And that was my biggest takeaway from this game. I mean, 2 juggernauts. And we got it was a low-scoring game, but it was entertaining and a great watch. The very last game we're going to discuss. It's another game that I was looking forward to. There was so many good matchups yesterday. And you know, I love to watch these games live, but you know, it's hard for me to watch like 5 games. You got to think. In the same window yesterday, I had to pay attention to Broncos, Chiefs. I was trying to watch the Seahawks and the Rams. And at 1 o'clock, I had the Bills and the Bucs. And I had the Bears and the Vikings. So it's hard for me to keep up with all of these games. But I'm practicing and I'm trying. But here was another game I was looking forward to watching. Bears-Vikings. We know these are 2 ball clubs I have talked about numerous times because of their quarterbacks. Mr. Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy. But when it comes to the Bears, and we're going to talk about the Bears and we'll get to J.J. McCarthy in a minute. No matter the season's outcome, and this is my takeaway from this game, no matter the outcome of this season, Bears fans have found their nucleus. You found the quarterback. You found the coach. Ben Johnson, what he's been able to do this year, it's phenomenal. Let's just sit here and think for a minute. We're talking about a Bears franchise who's been pathetic for centuries. They've not been good. Is centuries the right word? Well, let's not use centuries. The Bears have been bad for decades. Like, they've never got the coach right. They've never really got the quarterback right. And it feels like with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, this might be the perfect marriage that the Bears have been waiting for decades to get. Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterback prospects to come out in the last 10 years. And granted, yesterday, he didn't play well. I mean, he only completed 50% of his passes. But what did he not do? He didn't turn the ball over. And he put himself and his team in a prime chance to win the game. Granted, he ran Devin Duvernay. He gave him great field position. They got the ball in the Vikings part of the field in the final drive of the game. But if Devin Duvernay didn't take it back to the other team's field and Caleb Williams had to be clutch and be like, Caleb, go down the field and give me a game-winning field goal, there's no doubt in my mind, none, that Caleb Williams was going to lead the Bears down the field for a game-winning drive. That is just what we've seen so far this season with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. The Bears are 7-3. Caleb is super talented, and they have great pieces around them. Like, they have a good roster. Ryan Poles gave them a lot of crap. They got a great roster. You have Roman Dunze, DeAndre Swift, you got DJ Moore, Colton Loveland. He's come across the scene these last couple of weeks. They were able to run the ball yesterday. They had 4.3 yards a carry. Cole Kmet, he caught 5 for 45. I mean, they didn't light you up offensively. They just didn't. It was just one of those games. You're on the road. Skull Nation is not an easy place to play. Division game, you're going to have a game like this. You're going to have that 19-17 score. But ultimately, and it's the same thing we talk about with the Eagles. But granted, the Bears are not this team that you think that, you know what? The Bears are Super Bowl contenders. No, we know the Bears aren't Super Bowl contenders. Maybe we can say that in the future, but not this season. But this has been my gripe when it comes with the Bears and the Eagles. Yes, they are like essentially the same team. Granted, the Bears are nowhere near as good defensively as the Eagles. But the Bears are finding ways to win. But guess what? The Bears are not claiming to be Super Bowl contenders. That is what the Eagles are. So I'm not like, I'm not talking about Caleb Williams and the Bears. I'm not over here making it sound like, dude, you like the Bears and you're fascinated over the Bears, but you don't like the Eagles. When you really watch the Bears, I mean, you could just tell and look at them. This is not a Super Bowl contender. But you see, and to me, it's about storylines. We're talking about a Bears franchise who's been crap for decades. Couldn't find a quarterback. We're talking about a guy in Caleb Williams who is he was compared to Patrick Mahomes coming out of the draft. We have a guy in Ben Johnson who has come over, established a culture, and he's winning games. The Bears, as of today, are number 1 in the NFC North. If you asked me preseason, who would have a better record? The Bears, the Packers, or the Vikings, or the Lions coming out of that division 10 weeks into the season? The Bears would have been last on my list. I'd been like, yeah, the Lions have a better chance than the Bears. Definitely the Vikings because they have a better roster. And of course, the Packers. The Packers just traded for Micah Parsons. They're Super Bowl contenders. But guess what? After week 11, watch out in NFC North. Chicago is number 1 in the division. Granted, I don't see that standing after 18 weeks in the NFL. Do not get it twisted. But when you look at this team, they're just doing what they need to win. They're taking care of the football and they're winning close games. And they're winning ugly. But as we discussed with the Eagles earlier, you would rather take an ugly win instead of a sexy and beautiful and pretty loss any day in the week. And that's in the division where you're going to need these ugly wins. You're in a division with the Lions and the Packers. These are teams that are going to be competing for a playoff spot. They're all neck and neck. The Lions are 6-4. The Packers are 6-4. And the Bears are 7-3. The Bears have a game cushion right now. So kudos to the Bears. That's why I'm loving this storyline so far. Y'all can kick rocks with the Eagles stuff. Yes, do I despise the Eagles to a certain degree? Absolutely, because I'm a Cowboys fan. But from a totality, you got to look at it. It's about the storyline. We know all the dysfunction going on with Philly and the fact that Philadelphia is claiming to be a Super Bowl contender, but they just do not wow you when you watch them. It's the same case with the Bears, but we're not sitting here acting like the Bears are Super Bowl contenders. The Bears, I think, would be good to win a playoff game. If you win a playoff game, just one playoff game this season, Chicago should be ecstatic. Bears fans should be doing a happy dance. Because that whole market in Chicago, they've been hurting for some relevance. And I think Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams has the opportunity to provide that. And they are. But let's move on to the Vikings. My biggest takeaway for the Vikings just this year in this game, they have just severely underachieved. JJ just hasn't been good. His mechanics are bad. There's a couple of throws I saw yesterday where there's specifically one to the sideline where Justin Jefferson ran like a 15-yard out and he just threw it over Justin Jefferson's head. Mechanically, he didn't get his feet set towards his target. He looked like he was drifting away. Just bad mechanics. He really reminded me of Jared Goff yesterday when watching both of them. Just mechanically, they are not good. When you rush them, you get to them. It's going to be a rough day. There were so many clips of Justin Jefferson yesterday just looking frustrated. And it sucks because you have a great roster. And I've pointed this out many times. I just had somebody actually comment on my Instagram, on my reel that I made, posted a couple days ago talking about JJ McCarthy. And yes, there were plenty of throws yesterday, specifically to Jordan Addison, where it hit Jordan Addison right on the hands, didn't catch it. But if you really look at the totality of that game yesterday, JJ McCarthy was not good. He was 16 for 32, 150 yards, 2 picks, 1 touchdown. And the picks yesterday, they were not good. They weren't no tip balls or anything like that. It's just straight up bad reads. Yes, did JJ McCarthy have that nice final game-winning drive that he's done multiple times this year? Yes, I get it. There were many people posting about it. You had this feud on the internet with Emmanuel Ocho and Chris Carter. Chris Carter, one of the legends to come at the wide receiver position for the Minnesota Vikings. And, Emmanuel Ocho posted a clip like, yeah, JJ, this is what I'm talking about. Guts and glory. And Chris Carter was like, dude, did you watch this game? Like, did you watch the last 59 minutes? JJ McCarthy's been awful. And, this front office really has to be kicking themselves in the foot. Because when you look at this roster, man, and I've said it, like, they have the defense. Brian Flores, that defense has just been phenomenal all year. They have studs everywhere. And you have a roster with Justin Jefferson. The best, if you asked GMs around the league, and you really asked them, like, dude, what wide receiver? Just, you stack the CeeDee Lambs, the Jamar Chases, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, all the stud wide receivers in the league. You stack them in a room. Every GM's like, pick your number one receiver. Out of the 32 GMs, probably over majority would pick Justin Jefferson to start their franchise. You have that dude in his prime. You have a guy in Jordan Addison who is a complimentary number 2 receiver. You have TJ Hawkinson. You got a somewhat of a run game. They were actually able to run the ball pretty good yesterday. Jordan Mason, he ran for 7.5 yards a carry. Aaron Jones, he ran for 4.5 yards a carry. They were able to run the ball pretty good yesterday. And, some of that has to do with McConnell and his play calling. There's no reason why I would have J.J. McCarthy throwing the ball 32 times. No. That number would be no more than 25. 6 carries for Jordan Mason. Give him 12. Aaron Jones, 16 carries. Give him 25. Run the mess out of your running backs. Give J.J. McCarthy a chance, because what was J.J. McCarthy's formula at Michigan? You had Blake Corum running the football along with Donovan Edwards. I think that was his name, number 7. Yeah, you had them running the football for you. And he was coached by Jim Harbaugh. That's what he preached. We're going to hand the ball off and we're going to dominate you. That is what J.J. McCarthy's used to. And McConnell is just trying to turn him into a drop back quarterback. It's just not J.J. McCarthy. And this front office has to be kicking themselves over not keeping Sam Darnold. They really do. And you look at Sam Darnold, granted he didn't have a great day yesterday, but man, you look at this roster and you look at the NFC conference. It's like, dude, we have the roster. Like, we have the pieces. We're just a quarterback away. And J.J. McCarthy, he's just not been it. Yesterday, he had a quarterback rating of 22. He had a passer rating of 47. And when you watch him, he's just not good. You don't want to pull the plug so early. He's not even started. He missed what, 6-7 games this year. He played the first 2. He's played 5 games of football through 2 years. And it's kind of hard to pull the plug so early. But this organization has to ask themselves, because they're not making the playoffs. The Vikings currently sit at 4-6. They've been 1-4 at home. You look at the rest of their schedule. They got to play the Packers. You got to play Seattle. Got to play Dallas. You got to play the Lions. You still got to play the Packers again. This schedule is not getting easier. So you're not making the playoffs. And at the end of the season, you have to be asking yourself, like, man, what should we do about our quarterback? Because I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep Jordan Addison. I don't know if he's even signed a contract yet, if I'm not mistaken. Same thing with TJ Hawkinson. He's on the latter part of his career. Who knows if they're going to be able to keep Brian Flores? Is he going to move on to a different job? Like, they were in a win-now window. This roster was win-now ready. And they might have missed that window just because they might have and kind of screwed up the quarterback situation. You put a lot of faith in the kid. I hope J.J. McCarthy can get better. But unless in the matter of these next couple 7 games, he continues to maybe mature, get better, man, the Vikings are just they got to be kicking themselves in the foot this morning. Just thinking, did we really screw up in getting rid of Sam Darnold? And those are my biggest takeaways from those games. That is my thoughts on yesterday's slate. I saw, obviously, y'all know I talked Jaguars, the prince who was promised, Trevor Lawrence, and my guy Justin Herbert. They had their matchup yesterday. That game was absolutely abysmal. Justin Herbert and them got rocked. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. On another time, I need to study that game a little bit. Didn't get to watch it, so I'm not going to discuss the game I didn't watch. We know Shador was on the field yesterday. I want to go back and watch a little bit of that tape. I might have that segment and talk about that a little bit on Wednesday's show. So there's a couple of games there that I want to talk about in the future, but not today. That'll be it for Sunday slate. Now, to end off the show, my Dallas Cowboys go on to face the Las Vegas Raiders tonight. We know Overshawn, Quentin Williams, Logan Wilson. The highlight for today's game is, what is the new addition going to look like on our team? We're getting Overshawn back, Siobhan Revel, Quentin Williams, Logan Wilson, Malik Hooker's back, Donovan. We're getting all these guys back, and it's kind of like, what are we going to look like on defense? And this is the best tryout, so to speak, that you could go up against. You got a Raiders team who does not have a good wide receiver. Their best wide receiver is their tight end. A quarterback in Geno Smith who is a walking interception to happen. And an offensive line who is god-awful, bottom 3 in the NFL. So tonight, for Dallas, I better see a pass rush. I better see some sacks. I better see some turnovers. Because you're coming off a bye. And granted, the Marshawn Nealon thing, that might be a component. It might be hard to play football today. You lost a guy roughly last week. And it might just be hard to muster up the strength to play a football game today. I just thought about that now. So I might get a little bit of pass if they just play a little lackluster, coming off the emotions of losing the teammate over their bye week. But really, ultimately, we got to see the defense be better. We got to see some continuity. We got to see some efficiency. We got to have something to build on going forward in the future, going into the end of the season, and going into next season. Offensively for us, I think Dak and them should play well. Max Crosby is really the only guy you got to worry about defensively for the Raiders. Now, they have a little bit of... the Raiders can be a little bit optimistic. They're a little streaky defensively. They can get to your quarterback. They can force you to turn the ball over. They can get some stops. So they have a little bit of a streaky defense. But really, with the offense that we have, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, good running game, good offensive line. I mean, there's just so much around for Dallas offensively where it's like, dude, they should win this game by multiple scores. I think the line as of right now is, I want to say Dallas is favored 3.5. Let's see what ESPN bets got. Yes, Dallas is favored on the road 3.5. Granted, this game is in Las Vegas. I'm seeing the tweets so far on Twitter. They are saying there are a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans there as of right now. So I think there'll be a lot of Dallas fans there. Might not feel that much of a road game. I'm definitely picking the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, I didn't have them part of my picks. I didn't even have my picks segment this week. But I promise you, I would have probably sucked. Because so far this year, if I was to go back and tally what my picks are, it would probably got awful. But I think Dallas should win this game. I have Dallas winning by 10. And I just think they're the better team. They're coming off a bye. And I really think they got the motivation to play well, after the whole fiasco going on with the tragic loss of their teammate. So they are going to be motivated and ready to play. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Siobhan Revel. I want to see how well he plays. I discussed on Friday, like this is really the game that you want to play as a debut. Like there's no wide receiver on the Raiders that's a guy. They got Jags. You got rid of your best wide receiver at the trade deadline. This is a prime opportunity for Siobhan to get his feet wet. Overshawn. I want to see if he can move well. Quentin Williams. I want to see how he stops the run. Ashton Jeanty. The best test you can have. You're going up against Ashton Jeanty. And granted, the Raiders haven't had the best rushing attack this year just because their offensive line is that bad. But look, Ashton Jeanty, okay, pretty good running back. So I want to see if we can pretty much hold him under 3 yards of carry. That's what I want to see today. But I have Dallas winning this game. And it should be fun. It should be exciting. And I'm looking forward to tonight's action. So that was quick and easy. I want to go ahead and close off today's show. I'm currently out of breath for talking for the last hour for some odd reason. Y'all got to think. I sit here and talk to y'all for an hour straight. Usually a show like mine, they have like commercial breaks, things of that nature. Usually it's not even taped live. Normally they can just pause, take a break. That's not the case with me. Shoot this live. So I'm actually getting tired of talking. I'm kind of getting out of breath. My mouth is dry as all get out. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed. Do not hesitate to check out my other podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or on my YouTube channel's homepage. Like, subscribe, and I will see you all on Wednesday. I'm actually going to go ahead and post my reaction to the game. I'm actually going to go ahead and shoot my live reaction. Well, not live reaction, but my reaction to the game tonight. So that'll be uploaded for you all tomorrow. So I'm not waiting till Wednesday to give you my thoughts on tonight's game. Because I'm going to be, depending on what happens and the way we look, if we win or lose, I'm going to be primed and ready to discuss later tonight after the game. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot that tonight, and I'll have that ready for you all tomorrow. So Wednesday, we can get into some other topics leading up to week 12 of the season. So we can go ahead and just fast forward, because that's kind of like the industry standard. Monday, Tuesday, you talk about the action from week 11. But once Wednesday comes, we are transitioning to the next week. So that's what we're going to do on Wednesday, and I want to get in the habit of that. So, again, thank you all for joining me. I love you all so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day, y'all. Peace.